Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is November 30, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. And a big thanks for Gabby for introducing me to our guest today, Cyd Levine. Hi, Cyd. Where are you calling?
Hi,
Thanks so much. Where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from New York, New York, Manhattan.
What a cool city. You're in the best city in the world.
Could be, maybe. Get to see.
So the first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Companionship.
Oh, I agree. That is good. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Images. I love images.
Yeah. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
To learn.
Yeah.
I think learning is the greatest joy. And also the greatest necessity.
Greatest joy and necessity. So you're almost implying you know the answer to the next question, but I'll ask it anyways. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Innate. I think as long as everything collects information, but humans are lucky in that we can share it.
Yeah. Sharing's so cool. That's what I like. Do thoughts create emotions?
Maybe emotions create thoughts.
Yeah. Fill in the blank said, I don't know what I think until I...
I don't know what I think until I complain about it.
Oh my God, I love that word.
I'm a big kvetcher. I'm a huge kvetcher, born and bred. I have to kvetch about something before I can get over it.
It's really important because we'll go a divert for a second because when my mother passed away, everybody, said she worried too much. I got up at the wake service, and I said, "There's a lot of people in this room that worried that Dolores worried too much." So
I can't turn it off. You know, some people, especially of my heritage, we love to worry, but we can't really turn it off. So you just kind of have to embrace it sometimes, and yeah.
No, it's great that you can embrace it, because the basic question is, Cyd, is what's the difference between worry and concern? Because with my mother, I thought she was just concerned, but people say you worry too much. So some people want to differentiate, but how do you differentiate the two?
I think there are things, maybe worry is more like a gut compulsion for me. And I'll worry about stuff that consciously I'm like, this doesn't matter. I wish I could stop worrying about it, but it's just there. But concern is like, I might not be worried about something that I'm concerned about. It's like, I'm concerned that that person I know is, has these bad habits and it won't lead them anywhere well. But I'm not really worried because I don't care that much about them. But I'm certainly not going to be around for that to explode.
Yeah. Can humans think without language?
I wonder. I don't think so. I think that language might not necessarily be spoken, but there are so many, language is not just like the spoken word or the written word. And even within those, language is developed in parts of the world, developed in like such different ways. So the way we think of language, could just be pictures. That's a language. Comic books are a visual language. Music is a language. So I don't think it's possible to really think in the way that human brains do without a form of language, even if it's not what we might consider to be a language.
Yeah. Thanks for being so darn articulate. I really felt what you said. You communicated it well to me. And Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is.
Mm-hmm. Me and Chomsky were like this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's great. What do you do, Cyd, when language doesn't work, when language breaks down?
I think that's when you have to retreat into yourself, because, you know, what is language if not a method of sharing, going back to sharing?
Yeah.
And so it happens, you know, just that is also part of the human experience. Just like you'll never completely understand the opposite, and your words will fail you. And so then you have to internalize it a little bit and formulate new language.
That is good, man. You're a wordsmith. I appreciate this.
That's what Gabby and I've done a little bit of. I do some work for her organization, Acid Airplane Records, and I've helped with emailing in the past because, you know, I love sending a good email. And we jokingly call me the wordsmith sometimes. That's funny.
Do you really? Wow.
Yeah, it's funny.
No, there's a real art to putting words together, even typing them or saying them. If you can do both, you got a lot going. Because, you know,
I feel like I'm better at writing. Sometimes I get a little nervous speaking out loud because my mouth moves before my brain does. But yeah. I love to type because I'm like, well, no, wait, that's not right. Put that there. Okay, yeah, that's better. You get to do that before you send it.
Did you grow up a reader?
Yes. I was definitely, as a child, the sitting in the corner at recess reading instead of playing. And it's funny because for like a good decade, from like middle school to like recently, didn't read that much, and I felt like I kind of like lost the ability to read. So in like the last few weeks, I've started reading again for myself, not for school, and it's like a spark. It's like, oh, it's great.
Wow. But did you grow up a reader young because your parents told you to read? They did it as an example, or on your own?
All of the above. Yes. I'm lucky. My parents are wonderful. They're great. And my dad, especially, both my parents, but my dad especially, would read to me. And I think sometimes I would get impatient with, you know, waiting for bedtime to read the next bit of Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Or, you know, the books he grew up with. He would read me like some of like the 50s pulp kids fiction books that he read growing up, like The Runaway Robot is the only title of that, or like Firestarter, is that one of them? Stuff like that. So I was lucky to have kind of more high concept stuff and like the actual Sherlock Holmes books. And then, yeah, if I got impatient, I would just start reading it myself instead.
How cool. Well, we're going to get back to your background, but a couple more philosophical questions. Your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Feeling. I think, you know, the other species we deem as animals are definitely probably more thinking. I think, you know, to be able to react to something, an external threat in time without having any prejudice against it, like just like that is a bigger animal that's going to eat me. That's thinking. That's on your feet. But feeling, well, maybe that animal won't hurt me because it's cute or it's got this or that. That's a human flaw. That's a human design flaw.
That is great. I love it because it's cuter. That is,
yeah, like a bear. Oh, but the bear has cute little ears. Oh no.
That is great. Oh, that bear won't hurt me. It's cute. Womp. You're fun, man. I love this. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
these are two questions from night. I can't stop laughing. That's funny. Two questions from Alan Turing, 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
See, I can't answer these because I'm actually a robot. Thinking. Sure, I'll say yes.
Okay.
I'll say yes. I wonder, do jellyfish have souls? Can jellyfish think? I'm going on a completely different train of thought in my head.
Well, no, it's amazing to think, most people go, well, what do you mean by a soul, or what is a soul? So, I mean, it's putting it in the context you want, all these questions. And it's really me and you, Cyd, versus the wording on the question. So I'm always engaged in people who want to change the verb or, so the second question that Turing asked, and you anticipated, was, can machines think?
I think so. I think that the process, neural networks, the process of linking one thing to another, that's thinking. That's, what makes it different if it's biological or if it's artificial or the word for non-biological escapes me. But no, I was thinking about this because, of course, the brain, we associate it with like, oh, that's the organ that thinks, that's the organ that controls emotion stuff, but it lives in the entire body. Our how we think is in all of our nerves, and I think a lot about how linked the gut and the brain are. If like another thing that my people are predisposed to is stomach issues. And it's like, well, maybe that's why we're all so pessimistic and worrying, because our stomachs are all messed up.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. My two heroes, James Joyce and Frank Zappa, both sort of died of duodenal ulcers. And they used to, the cliche used to be that ulcers were caused by worry, to go back to it. And then they I don't know how many years ago, they go, no, it's not caused by worry, it's caused by something else. And so I learned to juicing cabbage will help your stomach problem. And it sounds gross, but it's like, it really is like an effective remedy. And you just throw in other things like ginger and carrots and apples. But cabbage juice has this amazing thing. And I wish I could have made cabbage juice for these guys and helped them live longer.
Much to think about.
But this guy on the radio last night, I heard that, because you said gut, he said that language came out of our guts.
Doesn't it though? When you talk about like speaking from the gut, speaking from your belly, projecting with your diaphragm in your gut. Yeah. So,
but it's more than even metaphorically. It's like it's both. It seems. Who knows?
Who knows?
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I think the two are correlated.
Yeah.
Especially in this world we live in, where, God isn't a guarantee. We don't live in a world where science is the new God. So a lot of people become unhappy because there isn't that. Well, even if it sucks here, I'll have some kind of greater reward. And so without that reassurance, life gets a little more mysterious and more scary. And so being able to find meaning for the time you have here, outside of God, finding meaning in your community and finding meaning with the people around you and through what you create, that is probably the best way to achieve happiness.
How cool. I'm with you. So does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
I think the brain detects consciousness. I think the brain is a very self-referential organ.
Say it again. You broke up there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the brain is a very self-referential and self-centered organ.
Right. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Light, apparently.
The poet Audre Lorde said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded to her and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
So yeah, social media. Social media. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. It's it's designed, especially now. It's merged with advertising and the greater societal ills of our society to create this panopticon data harvesting beast. But at the same time, those aspects, like for example, today Spotify is a whole other can of worms with how they treat their artists, but they have a thing at the end of every year where they'll collect like the data of all the music you've listened to over the past year and make a little presentation for you about this is what you listened to this year. And it is fun. It is fun to reflect on your past year and the art you listened to and what was meaningful to you and to share it with other people. But at the same time, you can't disconnect it from the fact that Spotify doesn't, pay its artists whose music gets hosts appropriate streaming fees, and the fact that it is harvesting your data for that entire year. So that's just a microcosm of the way, the current web operates. And I also think about how I think Twitter is the devil's website, and I've been saying this for a long time. And for several years, I used Twitter incessantly in high school, and it wasn't very good for my brain. And after I stopped using Twitter, I felt much better. But then, in the last few weeks, I made a new Twitter account. Just as it's dying, just as it's on its death legs, I've made a new Twitter account so I could communicate with fans of a thing that I like, because they all use Twitter as opposed to the other social media platforms I used, and they're all like based in Japan. So for me to access this group of Japanese fans, I had to like kind of enter their environment and go back to Twitter. And I'm like, oh, Twitter, that's so bad. But I've been able to communicate with them through this website and through the built-in translation function that's on it. Wow. And I'm able to talk to these people and make connections with them in a way that I could never have done in a world without the internet, right, and without Twitter. So
what you do is you realize this is a Maine McLuhan thing, that every human invention has services and disservices, and it's you associate them. But if you take a point of view and you go, I hate Twitter, I'll never use it, you'll deprive yourself of that communication. So that was great. But in translating, are they doing audio or just type?
So it's just text. And so it's very like I'm still learning Japanese. I'm not very good at it, and I'm basically teaching myself right now, and it's not going great. So when I have something that's too complicated for me to try to translate, I'll just type it out in as simple English as I can. And when they see it on their screen, there will be a button at the bottom that says translate to Japanese. I don't know what the hell she's saying. And then like, oh, okay, I get it. It's, it's not perfect, obviously. It's like machine learning translation, but it's better, as my family say, it's better than a poke in the eye with a burnt stick. So it'll do. So, but in the same vein that for like, dumb interest sharing online, the internet is also incredibly powerful for sharing important things like,
of course,
everything going on, all the conflicts going on, in Ukraine and Iran and things like that.
Yeah.
The internet is the only way out for these people. And this protest in China right now, the government is shutting down the internet in regions where people are, making noise. It's like, well, that's purposeful. That's no coincidence.
Yeah.
So it really is this blessing and a curse, and just a tool that you just have to give to the right people.
Yeah. No, I think you're sussing it out, and it's a lot what we're going to talk about. But back to that machine learning translation, just a guesstimate accuracy to your needs, is it 60%, 80%, 40%?
That's a good question.
Just about approximately what your gut tells you they're translating it to.
That is a really good question. I would say it ranges from like 55 to 70, and a lot of it is like sometimes things will be translated phonetically, and so it'll look like gibberish to someone else reading the translation, but I have the context. Oh, this is what it probably meant.
Because
stuff like that.
I love to study etymology, and my wife's singing. She's trying to sing "Little Drummer Boy" in Spanish, and she's practicing it. And so I said, and she's not sure if the translation will be really good for Spanish people. If she was singing it to Americans who knew a little Spanish, it'd be different. But she's going to be singing it to Mexican people in Mexico. And so, I said, keep in mind that the word translation is rooted in the same word as trader. So it's like you want to believe translations are pretty accurate, but they're not always, and they could flub. So you got to, make your better judgment.
Yeah, and especially with context, and especially like translation services like that are always going to be very literal, and probably and in English, it's like hard enough to learn Japanese. For non-English speakers to learn English, so many different pronunciations and meanings in single words.
Yeah,
it's like littered with booby traps.
Yeah,
very, very hard.
So you said what tool you suggest. What new toy do you suggest?
Ooh, maybe augmented reality. I think that's really fun. Making a 3D model of something digitally, and just being able to use your phone. I mean, it makes you look a little bit like an idiot, but like, oh, look, the things, I'm on my phone, and look, there's a little creature on my bed. Like, it's fun. It's fun.
Cool. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
What don't I worry?
Just give me one main thing.
Oh no, my first thought was very dark, so I'm gonna say it. Dying alone.
Wow, dying alone. Woo. Okay, then I have to follow it up with this one. Can you forget to die?
Oh yes, I probably will be too busy to die, and by the time I notice, it'll be too late.
Wow. So Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we might be able to cope with what we don't like about the inventions. So, Cyd, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Maybe it's the artist's fault.
Very good.
I have to tell you a quick little story. I went to a very strange middle school in Toronto, Canada. That was a very I don't know if I would describe it as new agey or not, but I was definitely it was like a little private middle school. I was definitely an outlier economically and socially, and with the rest of whatever was going on there. But we had like we put on like a big theater production every year at near the holidays, and they're all very high concept stuff. And so I think it was my grade 6 class. The teachers made like a remix of a Marshall McLuhan speech for us to break dance to. It's just the most bizarre thing thinking about. There's like, I don't know what the hell was going on there. There was a lot of shit. It's just like, well, that's partially why I am the way I am, maybe.
That's funny. So in other words, it's you learned how to have fun in the school, even though it was a little different, you mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. It was, that certainly was a medium through which to communicate the message. I'll say that.
What do you think artists have moral obligation?
I want to say yes, but I also want to say no.
Yeah.
I think it's no greater than like the general human moral obligation. Don't be an asshole, but at the same time, isn't that the artist's job to be an asshole and to be a provocateur?
Duh. Right.
Yeah.
I give you a high five on that, man. People are so scared to say that. That is the job. And it's not assholeism to be anyway. To be mean-spirited or whatever, but it's like
exactly,
you want to fuck shit up, man. I mean, that's my definition of great art is it fucks your shit up and it makes you go, I can do that.
Right.
So, what are you more afraid of, new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Oh, I'm certainly more afraid of new ideas. I think even the bad old ideas, there's you can hold a power over them. You can say, well, that's old, that's regressive. We're not, subscribing to that anymore. It's stupid. I know more than you. And I like a lot of old ideas too. New ideas, I am very, very quickly becoming, a curmudgeon at my senior age of 22. I hate the TikToks. You kids and your TikToks. And I should probably loosen up about that. It's not going to get any better for me.
But see, Cyd, here's why you're highly advanced, and I love you, because you're willing to say that. You're just sussing it out, because I would never hold you to it, but you're able to suss it out, So can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yeah. One of my earliest memories is my family were visiting some family friends. I was in baby group with this girl Chloe, and our family is still, our parents are still friends. I think she still follows me on Instagram. Hi, Chloe. But they lived in an apartment when we were very, very young. Also, our birthdays are a day apart. She's the 10th and I'm the 11th, I think, of August. But anyways, so my dad is carrying me, and this hallway is kind of dimly lit, but it's got these great big lights on the wall that look like ship portholes. They're just circles of light in the kind of dimly lit hallway, and I'm just being carried on my dad like that.
Wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
I think it's a blessing, because I've, especially recently, I have had a lot of memory issues and like a lot of just gaps in my memory, and And it's hard. It's like the things I do remember are floating out of context in this like dark sea, and it's just like trying to string them together. It's really frustrating. So being able to remember something, I think, is very beautiful, and it's how we carry people with us that are gone too. So I'd like to remember everything that I can.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm getting to the point where memory is a big issue too. And I had to go to the doctor to have them check me. And they says, if you look at your keys and go, what are these for? You got a memory problem. If you lose your keys, that's normal.
That's normal. Yeah.
Tell me someone within your immediate family, just briefly, and then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
So for my immediate family, I'm gonna have to go with my dad, who I'm kind of a little bit of a carbon copy of him with slightly different interests. This is a very silly example, but it is something I think of incredibly fondly, of him telling me recently the tale of how in his college days at Guelph University on Southern Ontario in the 70s, him and his friends, they lived on this like kind of like farmhouse, and they using well, my father doesn't remember whose panties, they built a scarecrow to protect their weed farm. Yeah. And it's and whenever I think about that, like, yes, that's why I am the way that I am. But in all seriousness, he's a very, very passionate and creative person who introduced me to so many of my interests, like film and comics, and a big nerd. And now I'm a big nerd too. So thanks, Dad. So
that's beautiful. Okay, so now outside your immediate family.
Outside, still my family or anyone?
No, outside your immediate family.
Outside my immediate family. Okay. I'm gonna say my grade 12 and 5th year English teacher, Paul Carter. He is incredibly cool. I was having a rough time, I think, my last few years of high school. Again, I don't remember a ton of it, but, my dad was sick at the time, so... And I was dealing with, teenagers have teenager things also at the same time to deal with. So it was a strange time for me, but in his class, I was really able to concentrate on what I love, with like writing and storytelling. And I've always been a little bit of a teacher's pet. And so it was it was great to have the validation of him also recognizing that I was the only one in the class that really cared about anything. But then he's just like also so cool, because it's like he was like a British punker in the 80s, moved to Canada for some reason, and teaching English to high school students who like mostly don't give a shit, but then I guess once in a while they do. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a bit of a crush on him. So Mr. Carter, if you're out there, we exchanged emails after I graduated for a bit, but it's hard to keep in contact with people sometimes, and it's very hard to stalk him online because A, he's too cool for social media, and B, his name is Paul Carter, and as he was explaining to us, children born in Britain in the 60s were all going to be named after one of the Beatles. So he's got a very generic name, hard to pin down. Anyways, hi, Mr. Carter.
That was good. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
So we're Jewish, but for us, it's always been more of a cultural and ethnic thing.
Yeah.
My parents, we went to high holiday services, but it was always kind of, we did not keep kosher at all. And it was always kind of like, the idea of God, right? Like, he's the recognition that it's more of a metaphor. And that if he did exist, boy, he's a huge fucking jerk and he hates us.
Do you pray?
So it's funny because like in the past while I've started to be maybe more in touch is generous, but trying to think more about faith and whatever than my parents probably raised me to care about. Because, and mostly through a cultural lens, but like we were talking about with finding meaning and whatever, even if you're not completely buying it, it's still having that force to shake your fist at is useful, which is the point of the core of Judaism, and the Israel is the name of the figure, and also country, whatever, the tribes of Israel, whatever. That's wrestling with God. And God sent an angel down, and Jacob, actually no, or anyway, someone just wrestled it, just beat the shit out of it, and that's what Judaism is all about.
Yeah, that is fun. So if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I don't know what I would like to hear. What I expect to hear is the sardonic, lately I've been, something happens and I hear God say, "Ha, LMAO, curveball, loser." So I'd expect something along those lines. Oh, you made it. Took you long enough. Something like, took you long enough. That's what I'll hear. That's all I hear.
You should be writing jokes for Saturday Night Live. That was good.
Thank you.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Definitely the latter. Evil is what we do, not who we are ontologically. It's just you can think horrible things. As long as you don't do them, you're fine.
Yep. That's good. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And a few modern thinkers say, Alan Watts, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thought. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I don't think I agree with that. I think, I think about like Salter's anti-Semite and Jew. It's like they're gonna be horrible anyways. For someone that is so dedicated to hating, for lack of a better word, if you're not going to make any leeway, just walk away. Just but when you first said, how would you advise someone to deal with an enemy, before you were reading all the other quotes, right, would gut and kill them, which is obviously not what I actually think. That's what it feels, right? That's the emotion. That's the emotional response. But I think my actual response is, we all have more in common with the people we hate the most than we really care to admit. And so it is the matter. It's how big of an enemy are they? If it's an annoyance, sometimes the minor enemies, we have mutual friends and you don't like me, but all of my friends are friends with you. And you treating me bad, that makes me feel horrible. That's kind of like the worst kind of enemy. It's way easier, it's way better when it's a complete jerk and you can just be like, oh, fuck you, I don't want to deal with that. When they're in your face and they're not really hurting you, that's the worst.
Yeah, and the beauty, Cyd, is you were willing, I'm a pacifist, but for you to say kill him, you got that out of your system, and you said
Yeah.
it, but you didn't act on it, and
No, exactly.
you suss out the big picture. You're like more a comprehensivist. And so, that's like Ram Dass has a great one. He said, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush. It's like fill in the blank. I'm having a real hard time loving Putin or loving Trump or loving,
Yeah, yeah. I hate everything you do, but hating you isn't gonna make you suck any less.
That's it.
That's a lyric I like.
Who wrote that?
That is from a band called AJJ, and that song is called Cocopello Face Tattoo. It is very good. Hey man, I hate everything you do, but something. Hating you isn't gonna make you suck any less. Hating you isn't gonna make me suck any less either.
Wow.
So it's a good band, good song.
Good. It's good to quote song lyrics. I love that. How proud they are. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He says, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? And years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
So many reasons. You ever feel sometimes when you're in a real situation, for me, it doesn't hit me until like 20 minutes after. It's like, that thing just happened. Oh my God, that thing just happened. So to recreate it, to re-experience it, to have that unexperienced experience, to re-immerse yourself in it is cathartic and helps you really re-examine what actually happened to you without putting you in that situation directly again. So I think that's my first response. I have to think more about other ones.
But Cyd, where do you think you got that? You sort of have a high awareness level of trying to suss out what's going on. Did you get that more from the way your parents raised you or more on your own?
I don't think it's, possible. Well, for me, I'll say my parents because they are both wonderful and both very intelligent people. And I've been very, very lucky to have very good parents. And I know most people I know aren't as close with their parents. And I think we all have our neuroses. And so I think they probably had to learn the hard way too, that just because you're freaking out about something doesn't mean that it actually matters. Yeah. And so they kind of went through that learning process themselves. And I guess I am also going through it myself. My tendency to gut react to things and then having to learn to step back and have the dialectic way of viewing things. And then when I say, I talk to them and I say, well, this and this happened. And I know I shouldn't freak out about it, but I'm gonna, but I am anyways. They'll be like, yeah, me too. Or my dad will do this thing where he mimes a grenade and taking out the thing and throwing it at me. That's your fucking problem.
It reminds me of Frank Zappa made an anti-speed commercial in the 60s. And he said, don't do speed. It will turn you into your parents. And it's like, good luck. You're going to turn into your parents no matter what. But it's like, it is a great way to put it. So tell us just briefly, what was the tipping point where you said, I want to be, a cartoonist and an illustrator? You're
Do I?
Yeah.
No. I don't know what I want to do. I think that's what I'm doing now, but I get bored doing one thing for too long. But I also don't think it was really a choice. I think it's just writing and drawing and just doing it and doing it. And I'm like, well, I guess I should keep on doing it at least enough to get a degree. And then I'll see where it goes. But one of my professors, the great underground cartoonist Bill Griffith, said to me, cartooning, writing comics, is equal parts drawing and writing, but the writing is a little more equal. So I think drawing has always been a thing, I guess a thing I did. I talked about how I grew up reading a lot, and I felt like for a long time I felt like I switched reading with drawing. But I think people who knew me would probably say otherwise. I think they'd be like, no, you've always been drawing. I'm like, it doesn't feel like it sometimes. But I think words, writing and reading are more my first love, and come a little more naturally to me than drawing. But the ultimate thing for me is the combination of them, because you know, any gaps, you cover all the bases. I need get the gaps of language, the gaps of spoken language or written language, and the gaps of images. By combining language and images, all your bases are covered.
Yeah. But I mean, Cyd, did you grow up with your parents taking you to art galleries?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
And did you grow up a comic book kid?
I would, yeah. It's funny. I don't have a ton of love in my heart for like the superhero stuff. It's just not my oeuvre. But you know, it was always in the washroom. So it was like, you know, my dad leave his comics in the, you know, for toilet reading. And so I'm like, oh, I'm flipping through it. I'm familiar with all of these characters now. Because yeah, I guess he did that. But I think one of my favorite things, it's also from my dad's collection, one of my favorite comic books is Mad Magazine. Sorry, Mad Magazine is fucking huge. Mad Magazine was huge in my development. Like the magazine itself, and like, you know, the articles, but also for its first few issues, it was comics. They had to change it because of the Comics Code Authority, but it used to, like, for a few issues, it was comics, and we had a compilation book of those. And they are hilarious. They're very good.
Oh, yeah.
So
but your generation, is that, because see, that's Mad Magazine is more my generation. Is your generation?
Yes.
Is that rare for your generation to appreciate Mad?
I think so. I'm a little out of time. I'm a little anachronistic. I also prefer drawing traditionally, like drawing with, you know, dip pen and ink and like this like quill. Yeah. And my professors are like, what's wrong with you? Like literally everybody else is drawing digitally. I'm like, I just can't do it. I just prefer this.
How about underground comics? Like, did you grow up with R. Crumb, or did your parents have those laying around or not?
Not as much, but well, I think I'll bring it up because right before we went on call, I learned that Eileen Kaminsky Crumb passed away today. And
my God.
I hate to be the one to break it to you. I was absolutely gutted. Because she's an incredibly huge influence on me. A lot of my work is autobiographical. And when I read her work for the first time, it was like all the things she was writing about. It's like, I thought those weird Jewish girl problems were only in my head. And it's like, no, she's already written about them. And so I was, you know, just absolutely heartbroken. And I was, right before we came on, I was rereading, you know, some Love That Bunch. It's just huge for me. And yeah, it's, I mean, speaking of curveballs thrown at you by God, I'm an editor on one of my schools. We have a comic book publication called Ink Magazine for students of School of Visual Arts that want to share their comics. I'm an editor on there. So in every issue, the students get to go out and interview working cartoonists to put in that issue of Ink Magazine. And my professors and I were working to like actually get in contact with Eileen for my issue when I'm a senior next year. So, and so I was like, like a horrible loss for the world in general, but also for me. And then, but previously in the year, another Jewish underground comics woman legend, Diane Newman, passed away.
Wow.
And she was a professor at SVA, and I was going to take her class this year. It's, of course, horrible and, heartbreaking. But it's like, also for me, I was like, I wanted to meet her so badly.
Yeah.
So it really forces you to directly confront the absurdity and the fleetingness of life. It's like nothing is guaranteed.
Yep.
Nothing you plan, God will laugh at it all. So that's something. I forget what the question was.
No, that was a lot, and we were just asking you about underground comics, and you covered it. But a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're drawing one of your cartoons, how much does intention play in your creative process, or what role does intention play in your creative process?
Well, but my thing, Cyd Levine says that great art is when you can see the passion of the creator. Intention, but intention. I think especially for autobiographical stuff, you're trying to convey an emotion. I think in any art, you're trying to convey an emotion through whatever technical means you have. But to really to imbue it with that meaning for you, you want to convey your feelings, right? That's the intention. Yeah. So I think that if it makes you feel anything at all, then that intention has been conveyed. You don't have to because when you watch a movie, sometimes you can it feels like they're trying really hard, or it feels like they're not even trying. But either way, there's intention.
Yeah,
it's like if it feels like the artist is trying too hard, then maybe that intention isn't coming through. But if the truest, conveyance of intention is probably just that emotional response hitting you, I think.
Cyd, that was beautiful, because Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your viewer when you're writing your cartoon?
Yeah. I think when I think about this, when I make art, especially now in a world where art, the primary platform for it is online, is social media, and it is that gratification of getting the likes to get the follows, to get the likes to get the follows. But at any time when I make something, generally it's 60% for myself, but 40% for an audience. Because if you don't make it for yourself, if you're not passionate about it, it's gonna stink. They're gonna be able to tell that you don't give a shit. But you, at the same time, you have to give them something too. So it's almost 50-50, but not quite.
Wow. I love people who talk in percentage. I always say, is it percent? And you're willing to do that. People go, I can't do that.
I have to. I'm a little.
I can't wait someday we meet in person. This is really
yeah. Cool. No, for sure.
But two of my film heroes have this mantra: ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a stupid question. I know it's both and it depends, but just your feeling is art making more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and culture are dominant?
For me, it's an exorcism. Maybe I'm the vessel, but it's also it's in me. It's got to get out somehow, and so it's just letting that out. So,
That's good.
so,
Yeah.
so I think, and I guess it also really depends on the kind of art you're making. Cause, well, everybody's going to be impacted by the environment that they're raised in the environment they make art in. And so that'll influence how you feel about yourself, which will influence how you make art. I remember in high school I had like teachers say, "You're so political. You should make political driven art." I'm like, I'm not interested in that at all. You know, maybe it's selfish to make art that's more personal or more introspective. But whatever you do, when it's your thing, when it's the thing that you're passionate about, that's what other people will get passionate about too. So
yeah, it's good. McLuhan's one of his favorite lines is, "The Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can." So the real hidden question to the vehicle one was, can art making be egoless?
no. No, not at all. I mean, even in the things that people deem as crafts, like the kind of the dismissal of other cultures where maybe they don't have like fine art pieces. Their art is more utilitarian. It is their pots. It is their weaving. It's the things they use, but also have aesthetic value. You can't tell me that in the Balinese net weaving community, there's not some people are like, well, my nets are way better. Like, no shade, but my nets are like way cleaner. Like, nets are so fucking nasty. Like, they're of course they're gonna do that. That's part of being a bitch is human nature. So yes, everything has ego in it. Everything you do, people want to do things well, and it goes back to needing that companionship, needing that community. If you can get recognized for doing what you do well, you're putting your ego in it.
Yep. So McLuhan talks about how everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extend our teeth. We extend our skin with clothing, even non-tangible, like philosophy or religion could be an extension of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What is the right, your pen that you showed us, what humanness does that extend for you?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I have to ask it. I've had this since high school, for 2 years, I think I got it like maybe in like grade 10, and I lost it for 2 or 3 years, and then one of my last years, it's like, wait a second, I found it was in one of the art rooms, and I was like, that's my freaking pen that I imported from Japan. So it's back.
Wow,
but
how cool.
I think it is an extension of my hand, but maybe specifically my nails. So, because you sometimes you just kind of you wanna bite and tear at something. You just really want to destroy something with every means available to you, but we can't do that in polite society. So instead, use the sharp tip of the nib to scratch onto the paper and make something that conveys that.
Yeah, that's funny because fingernails, people wouldn't think it. It's like McLuhan said, what do movies extend? People would say your eye or your memory. He said your foot because you travel. But people would say the pen is an extension of your finger, but no one has ever said extension of your fingernail. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a very violent act, drawing with a pen.
Yeah. I talked with Michael Apted, the filmmaker, 40 years ago. I says, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? And most people don't know, Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922 in France. But in 1980, MTV was affecting even Marty Scorsese. He says, I cut my films faster because of MTV. And what Michael Apted told me was, we've learned to take in information faster. And I asked this with the bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
I think we are, and it's not even learning. It's like a transformation. It's because, cutting film fast is one thing. Internet videos, TikToks, Vines, YouTube, whatnot. Those things are so rapidly cut, and it is actively warping the attention span of young people today. And I'm not saying this in like a fear-mongering, it's making everybody dumb way. It's like, it's just changing how people think.
Yeah.
Not like a judgment call. It's actively, like, our phones are an extension of our brains and our memory. We don't memorize phone numbers anymore. People used to. Now you don't. It's on my phone. Why would I memorize that number? Why would I memorize that fact? I can Google it. So it is like the rate at which we can access information, that we can watch videos, but that we can access any information is unprecedented, and it is changing the way people think and the way we think as a society. And for me, sometimes I'll be like flipping between apps, nothing's happening, nobody's talking to me, nobody's messaging me, and I'm so bored, and I'm tired, but I can't fall asleep, and I'll switch between apps so fast that I get motion sickness. And it's like, and then you catch them like, oh God.
Well, the hidden question, thank you, Cyd. It really taught me a lot. In fact, my friend is more my age, and her 16-year-old son said, "You're going to love this new film called Everything Everywhere All at Once."
I do love that movie. What did she think of it?
It's heavy. And she's a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And he said, "Mom, you're going to love this film." And after 45 minutes, she goes, "I can't take it." And he literally cried. He was so sad because he wanted his mom to love it. But
yeah,
it was too much. But the hidden question there really, Cyd, is multitasking literally possible? Is it literally possible to multitask?
Oh sure. Depends on the task, but if I have to like maybe listen to an audiobook for class or something, and I have to draw something for another class, I'm gonna do those at the same time. I got stuff to do. Yeah. But Everything Everywhere All at Once, like little side, like I took my mom to say, my mother is a much more normal person than me and my father, so I thought she would hate it. I thought she'd be like, this is too weird, it's too gross. But to her credit, she enjoyed it. I think the funniest bit was she was like, wow, she's a really horrible mother, that character in the movie. I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's like, no, that's not the point. I'm not going to say that's you. And I'm like, no, that's not you. But it's what a beautiful movie.
Yeah. That's the beauty of the film, that it's basically a mother-daughter relationship film.
Oh my God. And the tears don't stop.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw it.
Yeah, and on the side, it's a spoof of action films, but really it's basic drama,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing without interpersonal drama, and that movie.
Right.
It's so good. Anyways.
Yeah. So Cyd, cool. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Your hunch or your guess?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's as the same thing I'm doing. It's action, adventure, narrative storytelling. Yeah. It's the cave paintings, Sistine Chapel, the Superman daily strips. It's the same shit. It's just telling a story, Greek myth. It's all the same. It's people. This is another thing I got from my dad. It's all buff guys punching each other. Cave paintings are not punching each other as much. They're mostly punching elk and mammoths. But it's the same thing.
Yeah. So you've accomplished a lot already. How do you rate these three elements: luck, skill, and ambition? What played the biggest role, second and third, in your accomplishments?
It's funny. I don't even think of myself as that accomplished, but I mean, Gabby, who introduced us, she's incredible. I mean, she's like just pursued her dreams to the nth degree, and is living them, and it's very incredible. So I'd say ambition is number one, because like my countryman Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think that was him. Anyways, but it's true. If you don't do it, there's a chance you won't get it even if you try, but you definitely won't get it if you don't try. So I'd say ambition one. The other two were luck and skill.
Yeah.
Luck is second. Skill is third.
Really good. And you brought up a lot. One, my brother will really love this one because he's a hockey fan. And I have a woman on my podcast quoting Wayne Gretzky. That is cool.
Wayne Gretzky makes a very good creme liqueur that you can get at liquor stores in Canada. It's great. It's very smooth.
well, this other golfer says the more you practice, the luckier you get.
That too. Yeah.
Is perception reality?
Yep. Because otherwise, what is reality?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it too much. If you can perceive it, it's there. Sure. Cool.
That's Lily Tomlin says reality is a collective hunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that.
So a poet says that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. You do it. Writing is outing that inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Mm-hmm. Just the language of kvetch.
How do you spell that word?
Kvetch. Kvetching again.
Oh, kvetch.
Yeah. It's just constant whining in here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. But
no, that's good.
But at the same time, but it is kind of the generational, the spirits of my ancestors all living in me, and all yelling at each other. More importantly,
it's all like new agey romantic spirits of my ancestors, and they're all kvetching at each other.
No one cleans in here.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Yeah.
Name one.
This was, I'm dodging a little bit, but I'll come back around. One of my favorite professors this year, it's just like a humanities writing course. I also have a crush on him. He's another like posh British professor guy. But he said, when I was in my early 20s, sometimes like the only thing that would get me to like wake up and get through the day was like the possibility of like, maybe I'll meet someone today. Maybe I'll like meet someone and have that kind of a romantic connection, and like finally I'll have a reason to keep going. So that's why I'll get up. And I was like, I am so glad that he is saying that, because he's like a perfect human being, and I'm here like, oh God, I'm so alone, blah blah blah, extended angst. It's hard being a 22-year-old teenager. So I think kind of just having that hope and possibility that something wonderful will happen today. Any miracle will happen today. You have to have that, or else, it's a mindset thing. Even if nothing happens, which nothing will probably happen, but keeping your mind open to it instead of, as I want to do, just, it's a lost cause. Try to hope.
It's like if you don't have dreams, your dreams won't come true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me one, since you've been drawing, being creative, tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed in your creativeness, you know.
Yeah. I think one thing that stayed the same. I really love cute things. I really love making things that are very, very, very like cute. And you know, when I was a kid, I loved anime, and I'm not really plugged into that right now. But I had this realization like a few years ago that, you know, when I was a kid, I would try to copy Sailor Moon posters, and I was like, I can't get these eyes right. Why aren't they coming out right? And then a few years ago, I was like drawing a joke drawing that was like over the top cartoonish anime as a like just as a goof, and I realized I did it good. And I was and so people are like, maybe I'm not proud of my art as a whole right now, but boy, would Cydel, age 8, be proud of this. So, so that's been something that's been able to anchor me to the joy of drawing, of just like of keeping, yeah. So, something that's changed. I guess what's changed might not be me, but like the external conditions in which I draw, because it did used to be a passion thing, and when it's for school, when it's for an assignment, or when it's for like a job even, it's like that's rough. Because if it's not something you're very passionate about, I think all artists have this. It's like having to make art for work. It can really drain the joy out of it if you're not careful. So it's been, you really have to actively seek out things you want to do, even if there's stuff that you have to get done, to make time to also draw the things that really like let your passion out, because otherwise it's just miserable. And when the one thing that made you happy, the one thing that you felt like was your thing, makes you miserable, then everything is really miserable.
Yeah. It's good, because I've talked to art students before, and I say, get your job and your life as mixed up as possible, because they usually go, don't take your job home with you. But it is a great line from the guy who wrote Taxi Driver, Paul Schrader. Says, he said, the job of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
When, the guy who put out the punk magazine in LA for many years, Al Flipside, said, don't sell out, sneak in. But that was beautiful how you differentiated between those. And so my friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So you apply it to cartooning. You've learned the technique, theory, you know how to put it together. How does one acquire taste? Like, what drove you to love anime and Mad Magazine as opposed to something else?
And those two are very, very conflicting, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that was something in the past few years that I've been like wrestling with. Like, how do I reconcile these two kind of interests? And especially, when like kind of like the more Mad Magazine and more stuff like that, it's like I feel like these things have been imposed on me, even though I've like accepted them. It's like I feel like that's the stuff that my parents like, so that's why I like it. And I'm like, is it what I really like? And yes, but also, returning to like the cute things and the pop idols and the manga and anime that I like, and to be able to embrace those too. That's been a journey. But taste. I think the things you read, I mean, from like 10 to 16 or 10 to 18, maybe even, those are going to stick with you for life. Even if they're not like literally the same thing, you're gonna read and watch kind of derivatives of those for the rest of your life. So if anybody's listening, they're over that age, which would probably be more than the majority. You're shit out of luck. No, just kidding. I think you have to seek it out sometimes, especially as a teenager. But even now, sometimes I watch something where it's like, well, maybe I think in order to be cool, I should watch this or listen to this kind of obscure, weird thing. And I have a penchant for the weird and obscure, so often I like it. But in any case, find the most out there thing that doesn't relate to the things that you're interested in, and just eat it up, because that's how you find what you like, is by eating it. And if you can eat it, no, I didn't like that, then you won't eat it again. But if you liked it, then you'll eat more of it. And then you'll find something on that other plate that has some of that with something new. Like, oh, I like that thing too. And you'll eat something with that ingredient on a different plate, and you'll just keep on finding things.
Yeah. Really well put. Really well worded, Cyd. I loved your choice of words there. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. Normally, we talk to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
I've made a comment about this. I am a compulsive truth teller. I'm bad at lying. I'm bad at hiding my feelings, and I'm bad at shutting up. But sometimes when I say something blue or out of turn, people think it's really funny. So I keep on doing it.
Yeah. That's good. And so that's fun, because you said a compulsive truth teller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Mm-hmm. So most people go, that's great, I agree. And one person finally said, that's bullshit. If I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the question, if the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Because then we won't get up off our ass.
But the flaneurs in Paris in the 20s changed the world forever, and they just drank coffee and didn't do anything.
That's true.
They did psychogeography.
Yeah.
For some reason, humans, do you think we're like hardwired to seek a destination, or is it just it's sort of like, I think the work, maybe we could transfer it to the work ethic, because it seems so you have a work ethic.
It's funny because I think this destination business probably does differ by individual, because for me, I very, very much struggle to get anything done unless I have a third party kind of pressuring me, which is why I enjoy being in school to a certain extent, to like say, okay, well, you have to do this for your grade. It's like, okay, well, then I'll do it, and I'll do it right. But oh boy, when I don't have someone breathing down my neck, it sometimes it can get hard to get up off my ass. But other people work completely differently. I have plenty of friends who are like, oh, I fucking hate it here. I can't, I don't have all the stuff I want to do. I can't get done. And I get that to a certain extent too. Cause if you're in a class, if you're in a position like a workspace, a job, a career, any of that you're not happy with, and you do have something in mind that you want to get done, that's incredibly frustrating. But sometimes if you don't have anything in mind and you're stuck in this boring position, that's the worst. So putting yourself in these regimented things, or putting yourself out of your comfort zone, will kickstart you to finding that idea, or finding that quote unquote destination that you might want to start traveling towards.
That's almost what you're touching on, is what does courage mean to you now? What does risk mean to you now? There
was a really great cartoonist. I think his name is Derek M. Ballard. He posts a lot on Instagram. I think to find this quote. I hope I don't fuck it up completely. I think courage is only. Oh no, I'm gonna mess it up. But something about courage is only like fear that like gave up, like it lost the opportunity to keep on being scared. It's like there's no, I don't have the opportunity to be scared anymore. I guess I have to be courageous now. It was much more eloquent and in fewer words when he drew it. But
you gave us the essence of it. Courage and fear that gave up. That's heavy. Yeah. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
I think when it's channeled. That's it. I think a lot of people talk about creating out of spite or surviving out of spite. And I think sometimes for me, anger can be a little debilitating. It's like, okay, and I have to calm down before I can really do anything with it. But sometimes.
A significant difference between men and women, physical aside.
I think maybe caution is the word.
Wow.
I think there's existing as a woman, there is a constant threat that you are just conscious of from a very, very, very too young age. And even before you can put a name to it, the threat is there. And men just don't grow up with that. And as much as the most well-meaning men can try to understand it and try to empathize with it, it's not, like walking on the streets with my friends at night. I have this memory of walking with one of my best friends, who I have an artist comic collective with called Epic Wayne Press. My very good friend Teo Suzuki. I was walking with him one night. We were coming home from a movie, as we do. We watch a lot of movies together. He was talking about something. He was going blah 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 blah. He loves to talk blah 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 blah. And I hear from behind me this voice, "Hey baby," and I'm like, and I can hear like all of the noise in the world in the street just like get sucked out. And then I hear the guy behind me. He's just talking to his girlfriend on his phone. He passes by. He's talking to his girlfriend on the phone. Whatever. Okay. He has a weird, scary tone of voice, but he's talking to his girlfriend. And I hear Teo's voice like tune back in. he didn't shut up. And then in contrast, just walking with a great friend of mine at night doing something else, and we're just walking and talking with me and Aurora. And this guy coughs too loud beside us. And we're both like that. We keep on walking. And then we're like, okay. It's like, this guy just coughed. And, you don't want to assume the worst of every human just because they're a man. But you kind of have to. You can't turn it off. It's just there just to keep you alive.
Yeah. Cyd, how do you find peace of mind?
Weed. It's hard.
Talk about walking down the street. If you were walking down the street today as a 12-year-old, what would and you met your 12-year-old self, what would you say to your 12-year-old Cyd?
Hey buddy, you okay? She was having a moment. Maybe I'd like recommend some media that I like now that was like starting in 2012 that I didn't get into until later. It's like, hey, get in on the ground floor of this. It'll be great. No, something in between those two options.
That's good. So there's a line, Cyd, that goes, "You create what you resist." The comedian Bob Goldthwait morphed it into "You are what you hate." James Joyce said, "It's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve." And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So just this idea. I'm not saying you, but one creates what one resists. What's your thoughts on this? You create what you resist.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I was, saying before, like we have way more in common with the people we hate the most than we'd care to admit, and there are so many things that, I had really strong prejudice against as a teenager. Like, that's weird. Or if people that are into this are like messed up, or people that believe this are evil. And I'm like, well, I have those beliefs now. Yeah. The lady protests too much. So, and that's why I try not to be judgmental as much as possible of, people that are a little strange or people with different opinions. It's like, obviously, if you're like a bigot, like, get out. But you can also, you have to see where they're coming from, or else you can't understand what's wrong about their point of view. Yeah. You can't, if you just say, you're evil, I don't want to hear it, then that's no good. You have to understand what the other person is saying to understand why it's wrong. So well, yeah.
Cyd, I think you listening to that Marshall McLuhan remix got to you, because he talked about this amazing thing called suspended judgment. And he said, if you study the patterns, you get the big picture view. It doesn't mean you can say, well, I favor this or I don't, but what I've gotten from talking to you is that you're willing to see the big picture in the long run. And he said, understanding is not having a point of view. That to see the big picture is where you're going to understand it more. When you're all alone, you can say, I hate Twitter, I love Twitter. But when you're with one or more people, if you're trying to suss out, how has this changed our behavior? And, earlier you saying that example was really well done. So we just got a few more minutes. Can you go a little over, or you got to go?
I can go. I can keep going.
Okay, we got a few more and then we're out of here. This is super fun. I really had a ball, Cyd.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Doesn't matter. Whichever way it doesn't get. Sometimes I have like a fan on my toilet because my ventilation in my apartment is horrible. It's a New York apartment. They painted over the ventilation with the New York landlord white. Anyways, so if I leave the fan on in the washroom so that air can circulate, sometimes the toilet paper will like start spinning out of control. It'll get caught on the wind. So whichever way that doesn't happen is the way that the toilet paper should hang.
That is practical. Let's go back to Alan Watts for a second. He asked 5 quick, short questions and just answer with a few words.
Great.
First one is, who started it all?
Rocks.
Are we going to make it?
Thank God, no.
Where do we put it?
Up your ass.
Who's cleaning it up?
Not me.
Is it serious?
Of course not.
Dang, you got to give me another high five, because it's so rare that people actually listen when I say in a few words. Because they'll go, blah, 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 blah. I said in a few words, they didn't listen.
Yeah.
So
rapid fire.
Thank you for being a good listener as well as a good talker.
Thank you.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh, this one is cheating because I'm thinking about publishing some of my autobio comics with this, but I'll say it anyways. Embarrassing myself again.
Oh, that's good. They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Ruglach, cinnamon ruglach.
Oh, nice. If the statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
It would be a cute little anime figure in plastic. It'd probably get displayed in the anime toy store.
Yeah. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Ooh, never had, never want. Never want is hard. Grandparents. I mean, never want, maybe, but my grandparents on my father's side passed away before I was born, and I really wish I could have met them. So maybe that's not a never want, but I guess. But it's also, no one can rewind the clock, so it's not worth worrying about stuff. So I don't worry about wanting grandparents. So in that case, I don't want them. And on my mother's side, my Zadie passed away when I was very young, and my bubby had Alzheimer's throughout my entire life. So so I never really got to have grandparents. Yeah. And as much as I would have loved to meet my bubby and Zadie on my father's side, I got to have the stories of them carried down through him, and all the things about my bubby and Zadie on my mom's side, I got to hear about through her. So, and I get to have very good parents. So, you take what we can get. So that.
Really touching. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Just smile. This might as well happen.
What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
That inspires me. That doesn't make me scared. I think there is a willingness to listen to other people's stories. For a long time, it was very, very centralized on the experiences of a select few, and more, everybody can complain about the SJW thought police all they want, but it's without question, more people are able to tell their stories, and more people are willing to listen, and nothing bad can come of hearing more points of view. Only good can come of hearing more points of view. So I think that is encouraging.
That's really cool. But the letters you said before the thought police, I missed those. What were they?
Oh, SJW, the social justice warrior.
Who is that?
Oh my goodness. It is like a joke, derogatory term for people that are, concerned with social justice, this vague idea of, progressiveness and thoughtfulness. How dare people be concerned about, the life and equalities of others? That's horrible. It started as like a niche internet thing in like the early 2010s, and like so many things that should have stayed niche internet things, it has like exploded into this like, wider cultural term to throw at each other, where right-wing people will be like, you're being an SJW, you're not letting me have my freedoms because you're claiming that it's offending other people. And it's like, right. And this is the case where you turn around and walk away because there's no winning that fight.
Yeah, that's good. I love to learn new things, so thank you. So two more and we're out of here. Thornton Wilder said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. Yeah, Cyd, you've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Love.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds corny and it sounds trite, but it is all about that connection and feeling, I think for me, I'm a person where romantic love is a thing that I am focused on and interested in. Other people aren't. But it doesn't have to be romantic love. I think, the love of your community, the love of your family, the love of your friends. Without that, I don't think there's anyone that is like, well, screw all of those. Even if it's love of your peers, even if it's like, well, I want professional respect, that's love from your peers. I hate to break it to you, buddy. So love.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful answer. I agree. And the great guy who was homeless in Venice once, he wrote a song called Nature Boy. His name's Eden Abe, and everybody did it. Nat King Cole, Lady Gaga, John Coltrane, Ella Fitzgerald. And the line in it is, the greatest lesson you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return. So it's really, back to your thing. So, Cyd, what gives you the most optimism?
The connections I make with quote unquote strangers. The people on the street saying, "Wow, I love your outfit," or the guy at the bodega being like, "Hey," like in a familiar, like, "Oh, I remember you," or the ladies who I give my laundry to saying, "Oh, you were away for a few months." "Yeah, I was back in Toronto for the summer." "Oh, we missed you." That's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, connection with strangers, because they really aren't strangers. They're and I know people like that, living in Venice for 43 years. It's like, I don't even know their names sometimes, and we're almost best friends. But it's just, you have a connection. And I really want. Have you ever been to Venice, California?
I haven't. I've been to San Diego a few times, but I went to the Hollywood area the first time last October to hang out with Gabby and see some shows together, and that was really lovely. It taking a little vacation in the middle of the school semester did throw off my year for a little bit. I was playing catch up for a minute there, but I don't regret it. It was a lovely trip, and I would very much like to go back.
Yeah, well, very cool. You're always welcome in Venice. I'd love to show you around. And
I would love to visit.
Yeah, it was really fun because the first question was, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life: what gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people. So you really talk this love and connection thing and sharing really impressed me. And Cyd, the best thing about this time with you is we had a good time, and I got to laugh and cry and everything.
I'm glad. Yeah, that's the best thing I can do.
It is. It was really fun, and definitely stay in touch. Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this conversation will never end and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching if you're watching this.
Thank you, Cyd.
Thank you.